And now, a few moments with Dave Shugarts, author of Secrets of the Widow's Son, and contributor to the upcoming book,
Secrets of the Lost Symbol.
Hi, I'm Dave Shugarts, author of Secrets of the Widow's Son and contributor to the upcoming book, Secrets of the Lost Symbol. This is Hunch No. 4 as we come down to the release date of Dan Brown's new novel, The Lost Symbol. As always, this is just a hunch, a guess, not a prediction, and it's based on my own research as well as clues that have been spread around the web by Dan Brown's publishers. I want to mention music as a form of art and figurative meaning. This meaning can be conveyed both philosophically and as a dramatic art form. There is science in music, and it relates to mathematics and optics and obviously acoustics. The reason that I bring it up is Dan Brown essentially did not mention music in his previous books. As I wrote in 2005 in Secrets of the Widow's Son, this seems to me to be a glaring omission. It's doubly glaring because before he was a novelist, Dan Brown set his sights on music as a career. He wrote songs, played the keyboard, and eventually produced a number of CDs. He went out to Los Angeles for a time and produced an album at a recording studio there, and that's where he met his wife, Blythe. But the music business is a difficult one, and even though Dan Brown had some skills, he never found an audience. I happen to have one of the few copies that exist of the album Dan Brown in both the cassette and CD version. In those days, he wore glasses, by the way. When Dan Brown began to write about esoteric subjects in the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, he really tapped into an underground stream of art and literature and philosophy and science and religion and alchemy. He gave us a rich tapestry of threads of history and culture, and he almost entirely left out music. So it's my hunch that he will turn to music this time, partly because it has by now surely sunk in that you can't talk about the Pythagoreans, for instance, without mentioning that their reverence for numbers also stemmed from observations about harmony. More than 2,000 years ago, they were well aware of simple whole number relationships like 1 is to 2 or 6 is to 8, describing the musical scale and chords. This is really an awesome cosmic thing and equivalent to some of the other mathematical discoveries that Dan Brown did talk about, such as the ratios pi and phi. In fact, over the long march of history, many scholars and also occult practitioners referred to the fact that there are certain uncanny correspondences, such as the 7 notes of the diatonic scale and the 7 colors of the rainbow, and maybe all of that was related to the 7 known planets of ancient time. An ancient concept in this vein was called the harmony of the spheres, also from the time of Pythagoras, and in the 1600s, Johannes Kepler looked for a way to prove that there were music-like ratios in the orbits of the planets. That's just one example, but the great Isaac Newton studied optics and prisms and saw that perhaps it could have something to do with frequencies or ratios as music does. The correspondences can continue over into numbers and even vowels. One of the great musical scholars of today, Jocelyn Godwin, has this excellent small booklet called Mysteries of the 7 Vowels, steeped in this long tradition. There is a second very important level of significance for music as well, since music conveys stories in a very figurative way. Whether it's a ballad of love and chivalry or a piece of instrumental music like Peter and the Wolf, music can make characters come alive. Music is such a vast world that there are surely 500 ways that Dan Brown could weave it into parts of history or culture and get it into the lost symbol. But there is one bet, and his publishers did drop a clue very recently, that Mozart could figure into it. That's because Mozart was in fact a Freemason and even was believed to have been a Mason of the Illuminati branch. Mozart wrote music that was specifically intended for Masons, and some of his most famous works, such as The Marriage of Figaro and The Magic Flute, were deeply infused with Masonic themes. And it's not just Mozart, but there is circumstantial evidence that Ludwig van Beethoven was a Mason, and his friend Friedrich Schiller, and also Johann Christian Bach, Franz Joseph Haydn, Franz Liszt, and let's not forget John Philip Sousa. So it may be somewhat wishful thinking on my part, but I feel as though this is the right time for Dan Brown to bring in the whole world of music to further enrich his novels. I hope you've enjoyed this, and please check back for more hunches coming soon. Thank you. Check back regularly for updates from Dave Shugarts as we approach the release date of Dan Brown's new novel, The Lost Symbol. And look for
Secrets of the Lost Symbol.
coming soon from HarperCollins.